Hello guys, this is Vaish. So day 19 of the 25 days 25 MCQ challenge. So this if you are watching every day, you will understand that you are learning a lot of content. It's not just a question and answer. In every question we are giving detailed explanations, and most of them I'm trying to read it out for you, and remaining you have to take screenshot or you have to pause it and see. If you are my student, PDFs are already given to you, and all the other playlist, Polity MCQs, CSAT series, Geography NCRT, Environment, Nitin Singhania, almost every subject we are trying to make give good revision to you. Economic specific playlist is not there, but if you watch this 25-day quiz alone itself, there are a lot of economics questions being discussed. Even today there will be a lot of economics questions. So wherever it's a lot of theory, as I told, you have to pause and see, else you can just listen to what I'm telling. So try to score more than 15 out of 25. First question itself is a committee related question. Janak Raj committee, sometimes seen in news, is related to defense, banking, Western Ghats, education. One interesting thing is that UPSC in the last many years have not even asked a single question on committees. But even after that, many coaching institutes and everybody stress on this fact because for your mains it is very important. Okay, in the mains they even ask the name of the person and ask like what were the recommendations of the committee, what were the suggestions, or what of the following the government has accepted. So prelims maybe question will not come, but you have to know them because it is part of your syllabus. So here answer is banking, and here it's actually a lot of theory. You have to know that Janak Raj committee was there long time back, and 2020 he was elevated to the principal advisor in monetary policy department. So that is why it was his name was again in news. Okay, because he gave a big recommendation. So I'll show you what it is. This thing you can actually pause and see the 2019 news. Okay, the main thing is while giving out loan. Okay, banks give loans, so they'll have an interest rate also. So how is that decided? There will be some base rate always. Okay, they'll be like 5% or 6%. There'll be a base rate, and on top of that all the other loans are linked to it. Okay, like suppose there is a vehicle loan, they will tell that base rate plus 2%. If there is a housing loan, base percentage plus 3%, so that base percentage is fixed. Okay, and that base percent have evolved over the time. Okay, so basically if you see this picture alone, 1994 there was something called prime lending rate, then there was this benchmark prime lending rate, then base rate was there for many years, then marginal cost of fund this thing came. Okay, MCLR, and now latest 2019 external benchmark linked rate came. Okay, so this is where Janak Raj committee and all was also important because he also recommended this. So this is the basic story, but that in detail notes I have given to you. Okay, so just understand the basic story for your prelims, that will be enough. But this thing whatever is given, okay, please read it. And there is also a body which in 2014 was set up. Okay, Financial Benchmark India Private Limited. Okay, under the Companies Act 2013 it was set up. It is recognized by the Reserve Bank of India as an independent benchmark administrator on in 2015. So it becomes important, and the main objective of the company is to act as an administrator of the Indian interest rate and foreign exchange benchmark, and to introduce and implement policies and procedures to handle the benchmark. So all that benchmark related thing this body is taking, and RBI has recognized this body. Okay, also you will know in every monetary policy committee meeting they will adjust the repo rate and many things. So what they are expecting is that when we do the repo rate here in RBI level, we when reduce this, all the other bank also will reduce their loan rate or something, and then customers will get the benefit and they will take more and more loans and more investment will happen. That is what they expect, but it is not happening. Okay, because the MCLR which they are doing now, okay, the rate which they are doing now, that was having many parameters to decide that. Okay, so because of that, whatever RBI do, it is not reflecting in the bank, it is not effective. So that is why the new external benchmark rate is being suggested. Okay, that is a basic story, but still please read all this which I showed you, and again 2-page notes I'll show. Here is the prime benchmark lending rate, this 2003 one I have explained here. It was there till 2010, after which the base rate came. Okay, and here next page if you see, the base rate 2010 to 2016, that explanation is here, and then MCLR which came into effect from 2016, that explanation is here. So what it depends on, okay, see, it based on 4 components: the marginal cost of fund, negative carry on account of cash reserve ratio, operation cost, and tenor premium. Like this for factors are there. So if you can by heart, it is good for you, but it's a little difficult to by heart everything. But still, if you go through it just before prelims, maybe when options come, you can eliminate or you can mark it. Okay, just understand what is the difference between everything. And the external benchmark rate 2019 was first proposed by Governor Urjit Patel in 2018, and again by Janak Raj committee in 2017 to 19. So that is why this question is framed. Okay, and due to COVID and different things and all, it is I think postponed, but you can go and check what is the latest status. And also all the important banking committees are mentioned here again for your prelims. Okay, Narasimhan committee 1 and 2 is very like a revolutionary kind of thing where most of the big reforms happened. Then PJ Nayak committee is there for all the bank governance related thing and public sector holding and all these things, nationalization of banks, many things were there. Then Nachiket Moore is the one who introduced payment bank. This Paytm payment bank is there, Airtel payment bank is there. The payment bank ideas and all came from this. Then Urjit Patel committee is there. Okay, before even he became the governor of RBI and all, his committee was there where he told the monetary policy framework. Okay, the inflation should be this much percentage. So all those things came there. Then UK Sinha committee is for MSME. Kamath panel is for restructuring in terms of loan repayment and all. And then here again, if you see, Malegam is for auditing, Atul Shahi, trade credit insurance, VG Kannan for interchange fees. So this and all, as I told, everything you may not grasp it immediately. But if you make a note of this and on the day of prelims morning, simply glance through it, you will be able to answer it. Okay. And here if you see the last one, everything is wholesale price index one. Okay. Wholesale price index, the base year first was 2004. That was changed to 2011 by Saumitra committee recommendation. And now 2012, it is being again asked to change, okay, to 2018 or something. So that also somebody is trying to recommend. Okay, this Ramesh Chand committee is trying to recommend. And then there is a new producer price index which was earlier recommended by B.N. Goldar committee. Okay, Ramesh Chand also has reiterated on it. So like that, try to know things which are interrelated. So these three together you can study: Ramesh Chand, Saumitra and B.N. Goldar. Okay. Which of the following are the recommendations given by RBI internal working group headed by MK Jain? So this also is a committee kind of thing. So committee has suggested avoiding the waiver of farm loans, then replacing the interest subvention scheme, that is giving some discount on interest, with the direct benefit transfer to targeted beneficiary. Then banks provide crop loans eligible for interest subvention only through the Kisan Credit Card mode. So these are actually all are correct. All are the recommendations given by his committee. So that full details is given here. The screen, whatever you see, again as I told, pause and see. Okay, if UPSC is asking, it will be difficult for everyone. But if you can by heart this, it will be good for you and you will get that extra 2 marks. Okay. Which of the following are true about agriculture census in India? So UPSC have already asked about human census, tiger census, and I think elephant census also. So maybe agriculture or the rhino or many animals are there, tiger, lion, where census happens, dolphin. So you have to know the like how frequently it happens or how did it start. Okay, that is the thing which UPSC 99% ask, or then like who will conduct it. Okay, that is the kind of 3 statements they'll ask, and that is exactly we have put it here. So the first census was conducted during first 5-year plan. That is wrong because it came around 1970s. Okay, and it was conducted every 10 years. That's also wrong because it's under every 5 years. Okay, and it is conducted by Department of Agriculture, Corporation and Farmers. That is true. So here answer is 3 only. Okay, 3 only, remaining 2 are wrong. So if you see 1970-71 first census was there, around the 10th census was in 2015, and now 11th will happen now, and it is conducted every 5 years by Department of Agriculture, and it is based on FAO's already existing World Census of Agriculture, which also happens 5 years. Okay, so it is already there, an international model, we have adopted it. Okay, and in the census in India, the operational holding, okay, the basic unit, statistical unit at micro level is the operational holding, that how much is a holding. Okay, and if you see, all land which is used wholly or partly for agricultural production and is operated as one technical unit by one person alone or with others without regard to the title, legal form, size or location, that is called definition of operation holding. Now as per the 10th agriculture census, if you see, these statistics are very interesting. It is actually referring to the feminization of agriculture. Okay, like the men are moving to urban areas and also women are now in charge of the agriculture, and 80% of economically active women and increasing activity of women, and it is increased over the years by 13-14%. So like that, all are referring to feminization of agriculture. So this, if UPSC mains question come, these are the statistics you should definitely quote and you will get extra marks. Okay, but still there are challenges faced by the woman. Okay, because the land will still be in the husband's name, the ownership is not there, the access to credit is difficult, maybe bank account issue, or maybe resources and modern inputs they are not aware, and work burden, also workload and all, maybe women cannot handle as like the men can do. So like that, some challenges are also there. So this is a complete mains answer for you if the question comes on agriculture census and women, this thing, feminization of agriculture. Now special economic zone policy in India first came into inception nearly 2 decades ago. India was one of the first in Asia to recognize the effectiveness of the export processing zone EPZ model in promoting exports. Then Baba Kalyani committee recommended to keep the SEZ policies separate from other government schemes such as coastal economic zone, Delhi Mumbai industrial corridor, etc. So here if you see the first statement, it is true because in April 2000, I think the first SEZ the policy came, and by 2005 the act was established, and that is true. Then India was one of the first in Asia. This is also true. Okay, so that details now we'll see. But the Baba Kalyani thing is wrong because he actually told to merge all the policies together, not to keep the SEZ policy separate. He asked to merge SEZ policy with the coastal policy and the Delhi-Mumbai corridor policy. So here if you see, special economic policy in India first came into inception in April 1, 2000, that is around 2 decades ago. Then the prime objective was to enhance foreign investment and provide an internationally competitive and hassle-free environment for exports. Okay. And so again, export promotion, lot of stories will be there, like additional economic activity, additional employment, additional infrastructure. That basic stories are here. And here India was one of the first in Asia to recognize the effectiveness of the export processing zone (EPZ) model in promoting exports. Okay, so in 1965 onwards itself, the EPZ was there. Okay, not the SEZ, the EPZ, that is in Kandla in Gujarat. Okay, then accordingly the SEZ was introduced, and slowly to boost economy and all these things it came. The first act came, Indian Special Economic Act 2005. Okay, and here if you see, notable things are there. Notable things were converted from EPZ to SEZ. The Santa Cruz in Maharashtra, Cochin, Kerala, then Kandla and Surat in Gujarat, etc. Okay, then complete procedure is there here, how to develop the proposed SEZ and all. Then foreign policy, 100% FDI is permitted in manufacturing sector under the automatic route. This kind of statement sometimes you will ask, but the latest statistics from your economic survey is what you should more depend upon. Okay, not these things. Then government is working on a proposal to allow 100% FDI in contract manufacturing with a view to attract overseas investment. Imports done by SEZ units do not require import license. Okay. Then the government has decided to review the remaining recommendations of the Baba Kalyani report on SEZ policy. So he had a big list of recommendations which I'll show you, which you can pause and read. But in that only few are accepted. Now the government is thinking to consider the other things as well. That is why it is in news. Okay, this committee was set up by Ministry of Commerce, obviously, to study the existing SEZ policy. So it was set up in 2018, and all these things are there. Basic stories are here given here. Okay, and the key objectives of this committee, if you see, these are the key objective. Okay, to evaluate SEZ policy and make it WTO compatible, to suggest measures for maximizing utilization of vacant land in SEZ, to suggest changes in SEZ policy based on international experience, to merge the SEZ policy with other government schemes. So this only we reversed it in the question. Now these are the key recommendations given, and these are the ones implemented by the government as of now. Okay, so this you just pause and read it yourself. Okay, because it's just pointers which for your mains is more important. For your prelims, if they ask, it will be very difficult to study the features of one single committee. Okay, so these are the recommendations given, which now government is going to reconsider again, and these are the recommendations which is implemented by the government. Okay, hope it's clear. Here again, some more points are there. Prevention of the extension from one state to another of infectious or contagious diseases or pest affecting men, animal or plants. This is a clause under which list? Okay, we have this union list, state list, concurrent list, residue list and all. So in this, center will take care or state will take care. It will be mentioned different things. So this, when, okay, infectious or contagious disease or pest, okay, which is affecting men, plants, animals or plants, this prevention of the extension of this from one state to another, this is under which one, under which list, whose list is, and whose control it is. So here answer is concurrent list. So this again, you cannot go and by heart all the entries under each list, okay, because there are hundreds of entries. But because now this virus and diseases and all these things are there in news, and UPSC is asking also last 2 years about plant diseases and plant genetic modification, about that and all. Whenever something is disease related or any change related, UPSC is asking questions. So I just linked it with the polity thing, so that if it comes, you will be able to answer. Everything which you see on screen is actually concurrent list. Okay, Wikipedia concurrent list only I took it. So here if you see adulteration of food, wild animals, prevention of cruelty to animals, then contempt of court, legal medicine professions, all these things are under this thing only. Okay, social insurance, employment, unemployment. So many things you will think like it is under state, but it is under concurrent. So please, whatever is in screen, at least have a look. In case it comes, it will be helpful for you. Okay, else don't go and by heart everything. It is not possible. As on September 20, Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs is headed by. This Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, actually it was headed by Home Minister for many years. Okay, because 90% of the committees, it is headed by Prime Minister directly, but there are some committees which is by Home Minister. Okay, so that is why this becomes important. Now, last year I made this question. Now, this year, now September 2021 or October 21, you take also. It is now Defense Minister. Okay, so that is why this question becomes important, because a change has happened here. So this, just to confirm, you can Google also. I also simply checked it now just before making this video. So as on 12/7/2021, if you see, all the committee things are mentioned here. And here, if you take the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, here it is given like the Ministry of Defense. Okay, He is the one who will be in charge of this. That is there in various things. Here, one news item is there, and here another page also I read. Here, Ministry of Defense is given as the chairman for in the government documents. That is what is given. Okay, because this government has reshuffled or reconstituted the cabinet several times. So if you see here, Defense Minister will continue to chair the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs. Okay, this is taken from a 2021 news item. So again, verify this because these kind of things keep changing. Okay. As you see here, all these are by PM: Economic Affairs, Political Affairs, Appointments Committee, Security, Investment and Growth, Employment and Skill Development, all by PM. Okay, and this one, as I told, it is now by Defense Minister. These are 2019 changes, and I think it is still continued. Okay. Now, which are the following are true about Epidemics Act in India? Okay, this also because of the pandemic, I have put this question. So it was implemented during the British Indian days. That is actually true. From the 40s or something, it is there. It has been invoked multiple times in India, including the time of swine flu. That is also correct. It gives for special powers for Government of India, Indian provinces and local bodies, including to check passengers off train and sea routes. Okay, so this also will be true. So 1, 2, 3. So if you see 1897, okay, it was tabled in 1897 during this some plague in Mumbai and Bombay at that time. Then it is for providing for better prevention of these diseases. And if you see here, the bill called for special powers for Government of Indian provinces and local bodies, including to check passengers off trains and sea routes. 2009 during the swine flu it was invoked, 2015 malaria and dengue, 2018 cholera, and it contains 4 sections where it describes the title and extent of the act. It extends to whole of India. Powers are there to make special measures. It empowers the state government to tackle special measures and even formulate regulations. Okay, the state may prescribe regulations. There is a section where it empowers the central government to take steps to prevent the spread of epidemic. Health is a state subject that you should know. Okay, and it allows government to inspect any ship arriving or leaving any post and the power to detain any person intending to sail or arriving in the country. So these are some statements which maybe in exam hall you will get confused. So you have to read these things. Okay, during Corona also all states have been directed to invoke these provisions. Okay, and penalty is there for disobedience, and it gives legal protection to the implementing officers acting under this act. Okay, so legal protection is also there. So cabinet has amended this act through an ordinance stating that commission or abatement of the act of violence against healthcare service personnel shall be punished with imprisonment. Okay, like if you attack the doctors or attack any staff, anything, you will have a punishment. Okay, 3 months to 5 years, and fine also 50,000 to 2 lakh, and any grievous this thing is there, 6 months to 7 years. Okay, that kind of thing is there. So it's a good thing. So this was in news last year. That is why this is asked. Question hour is not available on which of the following days? Okay, the day of joint address by President to both the houses, then the budget day when Finance Minister gives the budget speech. Here both days question hour is not there. Okay, because that day already many important things are going on. So the question hour is not there. Question hour, you should know, it is actually the first hour. It used to be the first hour of the sitting. Okay, where people can ask questions. 1 hour you can ask questions to the ministers and private members, and there will be different types of questions: starred question, unstarred question. So this is all my polity already I have covered in very much detailing. Okay, so here you can like the executive can be held accountable also. They have to answer various things, and also it is similar to something which is already there in the UK. Okay, it is similar to Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons in the UK, the first minister's questions in the Scottish Parliament, and National Assembly for Wales, the question period. So all these places in UK, okay, the Wales, Scotland, everywhere this kind of setup is already there. From there only maybe we have adopted it. So 4 types of questions are there. You can pause and see: starred question, non-starred question, short notice question, and question to private members. This again, there are different color coding also. One will be in pink paper, white paper. That already in my polity test I have covered. You please try to Google and find out that, because my students anyway will have the PDF. So this also pause and see, because some are oral, some are written. Like there's some small differences are there. Okay, and recent changes are also there, like in the notice period given, and the speaker now can have the authority to direct answers to a start question asked by a member in case of his or her absence on the day their name was called. Okay, so like that small changes are happening now during the 2019-20 time. And also another important thing which happened is question hour, which used to happen in the starting 1 hour, now it is shifted to the noon time, I think 12 noon or something. That's a very minor change. From 2014-15 onwards, this government has reshuffled some timing, so it need not be actually the first hour of the session. Okay, even though the definition is it is first hour of the session, it is now I think happening in noon time. Okay, It is the only parliamentary force with dual control structure. Which parliamentary force is being referred to? Okay, you know we have Border Security Force, CRPF, Sashastra Seema Bal, and Assam Rifles, and many more are there. So all these are in news all the time because of various Naxal movements or border issues or any northeastern side issue. So you have to know detailed question, because UPSC asked a mains question on this also, like explain the changes happen to this force, or what is the significance in this present day, like that they'll ask a detailed question on this. So you have to know in and out about everything, which is already covered in several news. So here if you see, the dual structure thing was in news, okay, because the Delhi High Court has told the union government to decide whether you are continuing with the dual control or not. Dual control actually means this Assam Rifles, which is there in the northeastern security side, for Myanmar border and all, it's actually controlled by two bodies. Okay, the administrative power is with the Home Affairs. Administrative means their salary, their infrastructure, that and all is with Home Affairs. But the operation is with the Indian Army, that is the Ministry of Defense. Like the posting, the transfer, where you will, which mission you will participate, that and all will be under Ministry of Defense. Okay, so in 2013, this thing first time happened. Okay, like MHA entered, and now both of them are having that confusion, like who is operating it, who is controlling it. But now 2019, when Amit Shah became the Home Minister, he renewed it. Okay, he told like this will continue, like both the ministries will continue it. So that is why there is a problem when two people try to control the same thing, there will be problem. And that is why the courts have told them, okay, that decide on it first. And here if you see Assam Rifles, detailed notes are given. Okay, other things are seen into Tibetan. You should at least know where they serve. Okay, you know this industrial service, CISF is for this structures like airport security or maybe any government office security. For that, CISF is there. Okay, then CRPF where it is there. BSF will be in this Bangladesh and Pakistan border and all. Indo-Tibetan will be in China border. Sashastra Seema Bal will be in some other place. So try to find out where it is. I think it is in Nepal and Bhutan border. Okay, this Sashastra Seema Bal. And this other one which is in question, Assam Rifles, is for actually Myanmar border and northeastern security in general. It's given here. Okay, so again it's the only paramilitary force with a dual control structure. Okay, and the details same which I told, how the two ministries are there. And the remaining thing, okay, you pause and see. Okay, so again very detailed clauses of it I took from their about me page only, from their government website. So just quickly see it. It's very easily understandable. It's not anything complicated. Okay, recently the Union Cabinet has approved the removal of reservation for Anglo-Indians in legislative bodies. So which of the following are true? This is an expected question, so please pay attention. Anglo-Indians were provided 2 nominated seats in Lok Sabha and 1 nominated seat in the State Legislative Assembly. This is true. Okay, they were provided. The Constitution of India does not define the term Anglo-Indians. This is wrong, because definition is given in an article 336 or something. There is a definition. Okay, then since Anglo-Indians do not come under SC, ST or OBC, there were no national commissions in India. Okay, like you know there is National Commission for SC, ST, OBC and all, but is there any commission which takes care of this? So this is wrong actually, because the SC commission or OBC I think takes care of Anglo-Indians also. Okay, so here if you see, Article 366 defines Anglo-Indian as a person whose father or any of whose other male ancestors kind of people in the male line is or was of European descent, but who is domiciled within the territory of India and is or was born within such territory of parents habitually resident therein and not established there for temporary purpose only. So if you have that European lineage through your father, okay, and you are settled here or territory you are born, that kind of some clauses. So proper definition is given in the Constitution itself. Okay, so statement 2 will be wrong. And then here if you see National Commission for SC, Article 338, that is in charge of Anglo-Indian community also. Okay, they need not have a separate commission. Okay, and so if UPSC asks like is there a separate commission, it will be correct, but like no commission takes care of it, that will be wrong. Okay, and recent amendment as I told, the Lok Sabha and this one, it is actually removed now. Okay, and those are mentioned in the Article 331 and 333. One is like President can nominate 2 members in the Anglo-Indian to the Lok Sabha, and here Governor can recommend 1 Anglo-Indian to the state, and this is only if they feel. Okay, it's not mandatory. Only if the President is satisfied or the Governor is satisfied, only then it is required. So it was not a mandatory clause. So whatever minimum details is required, it is there in the screen. Just one more time, pause and see this. Okay. The outgoing Chief Justice of India conventionally names the senior most judge of the Supreme Court as his successor. Okay, so this is a true statement. There is no mention of the collegium either in the original Constitution of India or in successive amendment. This is also true. In the Constitution, there is no collegium. Okay, it actually came out of the 3 judges case. Okay, So here, if you see Chief Justice of this India, this person Ranjan Gogoi, when he was going, he told the next senior will be there. Like that, every senior Chief Justice when he goes, he will recommend some name, and that will be 90% the senior most judge. So it's a convention. It is not any procedure. Okay, and so there is no mention, as I told, in three judges case. It's there. So that full is pure polity. Lakshmikant text notes only. So I hope you will be knowing. Okay, like collegium is there of 4 people, and they will recommend to the government. Government will reply back. Then you can reject it once. That full story of appointment is there. Long process is there. So here, if you see first judge case, what it is, second judge, three judge, it's just checking whether the consultation, okay, whether it is accepted or whether it is mandatory. Okay, so that again pure polity. I don't want to read it again. It's there clearly given in your textbook. So pause it and see one more time, and read the textbook also one more time. A high court judge can be transferred from one high court to the other, even against his or her will, to join the new high court. This is true. His will is not required. Initiation of proposal for transfer of a judge should be made by the Chief Justice of High Court. It is actually made by the Chief Justice of India, okay, not Chief Justice of High Court. So answer is one only. So here again, some issue was there about the Meghalayan High Court, some judge and all. So that news is here, and you read this, whatever is there mentioned here, and the provision for transfer is given here. The theory part is given here, okay, that CJI has to initiate, and consent of the judge for his first or subsequent transfer would not be required. And in opinion of the Chief Justice, whatever happens, that is decided, I think. The views of one or more Supreme Court judges who are in position to offer his or their views are also taken into account. In case of transfer of a Chief Justice, only the views of one or more knowledgeable Supreme Court judges need to be taken. So even the transfer of Supreme Court judges and High Court judges, both are mentioned here. Okay, Union Ministry of Law, what is his role? Okay, he has to submit a recommendation to the Prime Minister also. So like that, whatever is there, finally, anyway, President has to approve it. Okay, President is the one who appoints, rejects, gets the resignation, everything of judges is President only. So that full procedure, okay, provisions is mentioned here. So in case a statement comes, you have to answer it. Okay, it's a 2019 news. Which of the following is latest High Court set up in India? Okay, so this again last year 2020 I made it, but 2021 also the answer will remain same. It is Andhra Pradesh High Court. Okay, because you know Andhra Pradesh and Telangana got split, and so the Hyderabad court will go to the Telangana court. Okay, it is redesignated as the High Court of Telangana in 2019. So obviously in Amravati, where their capital also they are making, there Andhra Pradesh High Court was set up in 2019. So there are now 25 high courts in India. Now if you Google in 21 also, it will be like that. Okay, I'm telling as of September 2020, but as of October 2021 now, if you take also, it is still 25 high courts. Okay, another change which happened is the number of judges in Supreme Court have changed. So that also go and find out. Okay, these are the things where question is highly predicted in UPSC this year. Now again, this is one more predicted question, because 2020 marks 100 years after the death of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So which of the following are true? Muhammad Ali Jinnah was Tilak's lawyer on most occasions. Tilak was a contemporary of Swami Vivekananda, and they have met each other. Okay, this kind of statements UPSC have asked many times, like Guru Nanak has met Babar, or somebody has met someone, like that they have formed statements, you should know it. Okay, so he was the first Congress leader to suggest that Hindi written in the Devanagari script be accepted as the sole national language of India. So because 2020 marks the 100th year, every detail about him is important. UPSC last year we expected a question, but they did not ask. So this year maybe question will come. So entire notes about him from wherever I could get, I have gathered and put it here. So you have to pause and see. Already many MCQs I have discussed here in various other videos. So he encouraged the Swadeshi movement and boycott movement. Then other nationalists were Tilak supporters, and he was the one, this Devanagari national language he suggested. He was tried on sedition charge 3 times. Okay, he was sent to that Mandalay jail and all, you should know, in Myanmar, that times Burma. Then Jinnah was the lawyer of Tilak in many occasions. Then he convinced Gandhi to leave the idea of total non-violence and try to get self-rule or Swarajya. Okay. Then again, Gandhi did not entirely concur with Tilak. Okay, so there was some problem with them also. That also in mains UPSC have asked, like, what is the difference in ideology between Gandhi and Ambedkar, or Gandhi and Bhagat Singh? So like that here Gandhi and Tilak also maybe in mains they can ask. Okay, then Tilak and Swami Vivekananda has mutual respect and esteem for each other. They met accidentally while traveling by train. So they have met and they are contemporary. Okay, so it's a very important statement. You should know it. And here about him, detail, very like Wikipedia kind of detail. What is his original name? What is his date of birth, date of death? And he was a teacher. He was one of this Lal Bal Pal group. He was the first leader of Indian independence movement. Then father of Indian unrest, Lokmanya title he got. Then Gandhi called him maker of modern India. He told Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Then okay, Tilak was considered a radical nationalist, but a socialist, social conservative. Okay, so this kind of term in UPSC can come, like mains question, this will come and they will tell elaborate. Okay. And Mandalay Burma I told. Then he from that jail only he wrote this Srimad Bhagavad Gita Rahasya in Marathi language. I think it's called Gita Rahasya. And Karma Yoga related things there. Veda related things are there. He have written many things about Vedas, and a timeline of his life events are also given. Okay. He found this co-founded new English school for secondary education. Okay. Then Deccan Education Society, that also was set up as a follow-up of the other school. Then this Ferguson College was established. He left the Deccan Society. He joined the Indian Congress. Then he did this Ganesha festival and this Shivaji festival and all. He had a fund committee, Shiva Jayanti and all, Shivaji Jayanti and all. Then Kesari and Maratha is his two different books, which is very important. Then his disciples, Chapekar brothers, very important. In Spectrum, I have taught you about them. Okay, they have gone and killed this one commissioner because of some pandemic was going on there and funds was not being given, so they got angry and they went and killed someone. So they are actually disciples of Tilak. Okay, then he wrote this Arctic Home in the Vedas. Then he even proposed a new way to determine the exact time of I think different nations and all. Okay, of the Vedas actually, of the Vedas different time. And Orion, he calculated the time of Vedas. Then again, two youth is there who threw bomb. So they also have about them also Tilak wrote in his paper. Okay, this Khudiram Bose and Praful Chaki, UPS have already asked about them. They are Bengali youth who did the Muzaffarpur conspiracy case, which we call. Okay, they killed this Douglas Kingsford, who was the chief presidency, Calcutta fame. So they were killed. Actually, they were not killed by mistake. Two women who were traveling in that carriage, they died. So about that and all, it was written here. Okay. And he helped found the All India Home Rule League also. So he was associated with Annie Besant. And then in his opinion, self-rule took precedence over any social reform. So again, lot of detail. This and all you pause and see. Okay, like what all social things he did, like for women marriage or many other things like that. Social causes. Okay. Now this question and the next question. The names of two mechanisms are similar, but answers are different. Okay. One is Forest Landscape Restore Mechanism was established in 2014 by which body? Okay, so Forest Landscape Restoration Mechanism was established by the FAO, okay, Food and Agriculture Organization. They did it in 2014. Okay, so that obviously the name itself, Forest Landscape Restoration. So what will be their goals and all? It is already mentioned here. Those they will contribute to this bond challenge, Aichi targets and all. Aichi, the 20 targets are there for biodiversity. So that and all is already is like self-explanatory. Now with the almost same name, if you see, Global Partnership on Forest and Landscape Restoration. So this is also Forest and Landscape Restoration, but Global Partnership. So this one is a different body. This first statement is wrong. It is not European Union. And it responds directly to the bond challenge to restore 150 million hectares of deforested and degraded land. That is true. So this was actually started by IUCN. Okay, small group of organizations spearheaded by IUCN in 2003. So this is much more older one. The other one which I showed you was 2014 and FAO. This is 2003 and by many bodies headed by IUCN. But the overall goal is same only. And this is the full detailing of it. If you need a mains answer, you can pause this and read. Okay, I'm not going to read it because it is very factual about me page section which I took. If UPSC want to trouble you, they'll ask you in prelims. Else it is for mains purpose. Now, Jatayu and Sparrow Conservation Breeding Center is world's largest facility within Bir Shikarga Wildlife Sanctuary for the breeding and conservation of Indian vultures and house sparrow. So located in where? Okay, so this sanctuary name is there. One breeding center is there. So this much details when you have, you will be able to know it. So this again you should know. There is another big center of monumental importance in Kerala also related to eagle and all. So don't confuse with that. That's why I put that first option there. It is actually Haryana, okay, where this largest facility is there and this Bir Shikarga Wildlife Sanctuary is there. Okay, so it is Haryana and remaining whatever is there you can read it. Okay, like these many vultures are there, these many things are there. So basic details about that location. It was in the news. Now, Indian beaches, very, very important. This year also question is expected. Last year actually, 8 beaches from India got this blue flag certification, okay, which is like the clean beaches kind of thing. In India, across India we got it. And this year, 2 more is got added. Okay, last year itself question was expected, but UPSC did not ask. So maybe this year they'll combine it and ask. So total 10 beaches now from India is there. And if you see here, the match the following, Shivrajpur, Gujarat is correct. Gogla in Daman Diu is correct. But this Kapad is actually in Kerala and Rishikonda is in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so this naming also you should be aware. Okay, because you're a UPSC aspirant, what name will sound to which state? Okay, that you should understand. There will be like words like Attam or something like that, means it will be Kerala. Okay, I'm just telling you different things. Okay, in art and culture and all, there will be many names where you will notice like, okay, this naming means this is from this state. Okay, or this naming of if Andhra and all, if you see, every word will 90% of their words will end with a vowel only. Okay, that I'm telling you, it'll end with A or U or O. It'll be always like that. That doesn't mean other states don't have, but Andhra Pradesh, 99% of their words, okay, wherever you take in their normal conversation also, there will be a vowel at the end. Okay, it will not be a word like this R or a D or something. It will be mostly vowel. So that will give you a clue that it is in Andhra Pradesh. I'm telling you tricks to eliminate. And North Indian names anyway you will understand. North Indian, South Indian, I know most of you will understand the names. But in South India also, which state it is specific, there are certain things. Okay, Tamil Nadu's place names and all you would have noticed. Like Nadu will be there, or Ur will be there, UR will be there. Something like that will be there at the end. Okay, so like that you will understand, okay, this is somewhere in South or somewhere in Tamil Nadu, somewhere in Kerala. So like that, if you know, even if you did not study, in the exam hall you can solve it. Okay, so here as I told, 8 beaches, that is I think the world record also, like 8 beaches together from a country getting this tag. That's also a record. So Indian beaches got it last year. This year's I think it is one in Pondicherry and one is in Tamil Nadu, Kerala. There is a Kovalam beach. That they are the two beaches which got added this year. Okay, but last year 8 beaches were there and the full list is given here. Okay, Shivrajpur in Gujarat, Gogla in Daman and Diu, Kasargod and Padubidri beach in Karnataka. Okay, this Kasargod is actually Kerala's northernmost district, which is crossing over to Karnataka also. Kapad in Kerala, Rishikonda in Andhra Pradesh, Golden Beach of Odisha, and Radhanagar beach in Andaman Nicobar. So this also, everything match the following can come. Okay, and remaining, if you see here, the launch of an event like India's own eco label beach environment and aesthetics management services. Okay, something like this, India's own eco label is there. Okay, this is also flagged or hoisted along with the 8 beaches recognition. Okay, and this is obviously under the environment ministry in India. But the global tag blue flag is given by another foundation. Okay, some foundation of educational environment, FEE, one body is there in Denmark, I think. They are the ones who give this. Then, as per latest notification from Environment Ministry, which of the following activities and facilities would be permitted in the CRZ of the, that is coastal regulation zones of the beaches, including islands, subject to maintaining a minimum distance of 10 meters from high altitude line. So, what is high altitude, like low altitude and all, in geography and environment as we have covered. So, what all these things are allowed? Grey water treatment plant, solid waste management plant, solar plant, power plant. So, here when these kind of question comes, 90% answer will be 1, 2 and 3. Okay, it will be true only. So here if you see, as per latest notification from Environment Ministry, these are the things. All the list is given. The portable blocks, shower panels, grey water treatment plant, solid waste management, solar power plant, purification drinking. So all this, if you once glance through, in the exam when it comes, you will be able to eliminate. And 90% I'm telling it will be 1, 2, 3 only. Okay, they will give all the correct things. And that blue flag, continuation from the previous question, explanation is given here. Okay, it can be obtained by a beach, a marina, or a sustainable boating tourism operator. Okay, because they will get this eco label, and it is by Foundation for Environmental Education. Okay, Denmark-based non-profit organization. And they have this stringent environmental and these clauses and all which you have to satisfy. And India's 10 beaches have come. Okay. That is why it is very, very important. That list again I have given here. Okay, just pause it and see. In Maharashtra also one beach is here, this Bogave. So just pause and see. Integrated Tiger Habitat Conservation Program is closely related to German Development Bank and which body? So all these bodies you know are common bodies, and so you are supposed to know it. Answer is again is IUCN. Okay, IUCN and this German bank together is doing it, and in this already 12 projects in 6 countries has been facilitated, like Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Indonesia and all. It's actually to manage the tiger conservation places. Okay, so news is there. GTF, Global Tiger Forum, in partnership with Government of Bhutan, India, Nepal, along with Wildlife Fund for Nature, is undertaking a situation analysis study for assessing tiger habitat status in high altitude ecosystem. Okay, so they are doing something like this. Okay, and here many bodies of tiger are there, so everything, make a column or a revision chart kind of thing, it will be easy for you. Okay, GTF, you know, it is the only intergovernmental international body established with members from willing countries to embark on a global campaign to protect the tiger. It is now not a new thing. It was from 1993 it is there, and it was based on the recommendation from International Symposium on Tiger Conservation at New Delhi. Okay, so it is actually located in New Delhi also, Global Tiger Forum, so it becomes important for you. Now, which are the following are match correctly? These are GK questions. Flamingo City of India, Tiger Gateway of India. In India, Airbook cannot be mentioned. So, Flamingo is actually, you should know, in Gujarat, that Kutch desert region, the run of Kutch and all. There, a lot of flamingo breeding centers there. So, there is the Flamingo City of India. Okay, the run of Kutch, you can tell. And Tiger Gateway of India, it is Nagpur in Maharashtra. Okay, because a lot of wildlife sanctuaries are there, protected area is there for tigers there. So here answers 1 and 2 both are wrong. Okay, so they are asking correctly. So answer is neither 1 nor 2. Okay, so the same notes I have mentioned here about Nagpur and this one, run of Kutch. Now, living forest report is prepared by this. Already UPSC have asked once, I think. So it is WWF, okay, World Wildlife Fund, and it is there since long time, and they will mention all this forest, trees, and deforestation, degradation, about everything. That report will come. Okay, living forest report. Now, which are the following are true about India's National Wildlife Action Plan 2017 to 2031? So this till 2031 UPSC, you can expect a question on this because it's a big project for many years. Okay, so it has a new action theme. It has new action themes like inland, aquatic, and coastal and marine conservation, and human wildlife conflict mitigation. It is there. Obviously, when you have this much big plan, all these will be included. Then it provides for priority projects like setting up electronic eye surveillance in highly sensitive tiger reserve. So this, if you know it or not, as I told, when such a big mission is there, all these things will be there. Okay, so here answer is both 1 and 2. So pause and see whatever basic things are there I have mentioned here, but lot of, like, it's I think 17 chapters of things are mentioned. Okay, about many things which they are going to do. So almost everything will come under this. Which are the following are true about offences punishable under Wildlife Protection Act 1972? Vehicles or weapons used for committing crimes can be seized. That is true. Then minimum imprisonment is 14 years. That is actually wrong. Numbers, as I told, UPSC will make it wrong. Here I think it is up to 7 years punishment. Okay. So here answer is 1 only. This Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is very important. It was amended later in 2003 also. Then Schedule 1, Schedule 2 and all is there. Like tiger, elephant, everything will be in Schedule 1. Then some like mongoose or some other animal will be in Schedule 2, 3, 4 and all. So like that it will be written like how much protection, how much offences are there, how much punishment is there for each animal capture and all. So there is penalty, there is punishment, everything is there, but it is up to 7 years and a fine of some 10,000. Okay, and vehicles or weapons used for committing crimes can be seized. Now this one, preponderance of probability. This thing was in the Hindu news, Indian Express news, everywhere there wrote the news related to which news item? It is actually not COVID-19, not India, China, not US election, but it is Ayodhya verdict. Okay, so all these things were in news. UPSC will ask these kind of questions. So if you see, it's a simple thing like preponderance of probability means what are the chances, what are the evidences which we have, that you have to analyze. So civil disputes in India are decided on this thing. A court weighs the available evidence and determines which of the competing claims is more likely to be true. Meaning you have a lot of evidence from both sides, but you have to see which is the most true one. Okay, so Ayodhya judgment applies the standard because Hindus gave a lot of proof, Muslims gave a lot of proof, like whose land it is, who should have ownership. So that fight was there. So Supreme Court's conclusion that the balance of probabilities was titled in favor of the Hindu parties, despite the vast swaths of both documentary and testamentary proof that its sides is almost sleep. So Muslim people also gave a lot of things, like Babur made it and then after that we did, but proper proof was not there, because if Babur has made it in the 14th, 15th century, after that not even a single instance of namaz being offered there in the mosque, or there are many people, Hindus, Muslims, everybody are visiting that site. So like that, there is no proper evidence that it is not there. There is another clause actually, which I will tell you here, the doctrine of adverse possession. Okay, this doctrine is also in one of my previous videos in this series. I showed you like 15, 16 doctrines are there, but I did not have the time to read it. So please watch that episode and pause it and take screenshots and read. Many doctrines are in news. Okay, so this doctrine of adverse possession means if someone, okay, if it's not the real owner also, like if you suppose you get a property and 12 years you are in charge of it, meaning you are not the real owner of it, but for 12 years you are owner and you are maintaining it, then it is considered like it is your property only. Meaning in that 12 years no owner came and claimed for it, nobody told it is there, you have to go out from here, nothing came, then there is a clause like you will become the owner of it. Okay, so same thing that Muslims people are telling that for these many years we were in charge of this, so we should get the right of this adverse possession. Doctrine of adverse possession should be applied in our case and we should get that place. Okay, but the courts have rejected that, I think. Okay, the argument was rejected by the Supreme Court, and even the Allahabad court also rejected that, telling some clauses. So like that, this was in news, and it's a very big news, because the temple is also coming now. So it's a national level news. Okay, so please research more on it for mains and prelims both. It's important. So this is over. Please subscribe and watch all other episodes, because each question is going to be a value add for you. I'll come up with the next video. Thank you and have a nice day.